Hey everybody, looks like I should be live here. Again, it's Pi Day, March 14th, or 314. So I think today was a good day to go ahead and do something a little different, talking about numerology. In this video, I wanted to talk a little bit more about the organic matrix and things that just happen in our lives by the numbers. And I'm going to look at one extreme example that happened yesterday. Well, it's actually over the span of 2 different days. You'll see in a second. Now, when we talk about numerology, for the last year or so, I've really tried to make myself a little more neutral as far as trying to explain what is happening. Because so many things have happened in my personal life by the numbers that I can decode logically that it does make me question what I had been saying for years about all of these things in the news being staged or rigged. Of course, I wouldn't do this work if I didn't think that people were using numerology to lie to us and present a false reality that's meant to warp our minds. Now, down in the description below, you'll see a link to my video that I made about the coronavirus ritual and its relation to the number 666. And what that video essentially lays out is that the elite have done many things to alert the public that this whole agenda is related to the Mark of the Beast code from Revelation. And they've done so through the code of letters and numbers, which most people don't even know exists. And many people, even if shown that it exists, still don't believe it. And I think a lot of people watching can probably share my frustration in the fact that regardless of how clear or obvious this language appears to be, many of the people around us simply don't either have the capacity or the willpower to see it. And that's the position I'm in with a lot of family and friends, where you know so solidly that something is so true to you that it's not that it's not debatable, but nobody can even speak on the level that you're talking about. So without getting too much into that, basically the number 666 has been coded into the coronavirus. It was 666 years after the end of the Black Death Plague, which began in a year. That's 666 times 2, essentially. Corona sums to 66 in the alphabetic order, among hundreds of other things that I uncover in that video. So yesterday, I was at some family's house playing some cards. Not for real money, of course, because gambling's illegal. But, we're sitting there playing cards, and I used to be a big poker player. This is probably something nobody really knows about me, but when I was younger, about 2021, I didn't really have a good paying job or anything, so I supplemented it with poker income. And I did that for a while, and I always felt like I was a disgustingly unlucky poker player. And it wasn't just online, which turned out to be rigged in some cases, but also that I was very unlucky in live play. I found myself in, like, every big hand I was in, I was getting beat. And I knew it was fine because I was always getting my money in with the best, but recently, there's a couple of really crazy poker hands that I played live, and these are the types of things I just want to point out. Like, when we talk about the organic matrix, it's not always an event that you can necessarily decode, but if you're talking about numbers or certain things, perhaps those energies can then manifest into our lives with a particular amount of emotion and focus. And that's what we're going to touch on in this video, where I'm going to kind of talk about this number manifestation theory to a degree. And I don't do as many posts or videos about the organic matrix as I would like to. First of all, it would be exhausting because I run into synchronicities every day where I'm like, oh, that could be a coincidence, but it happens all the time. And there's a certain level of, I talked about this a couple videos ago. There's a certain level of obsession that I'm trying to stay out of when it comes to numerology. Because if you focus too much on it, you kind of give the numbers a power to shape your perception on things, which isn't always the best. So anyway, all right, let's take you to this bizarre poker hand. And again, I laid out the whole idea of the 666 thing being with coronavirus. And remember, the word mandatory sums to 666 in the Sumerian cipher, which is the alphabetic order times 6. The word vaccination also summing to 666. And these are just two examples of many more. Of course, New York is the state which is pushing this agenda the hardest. New York also a 666. So I'm at the poker table yesterday, and we're playing a little, standard game with, cash blinds. And I'm trying to find myself here. There I am. And, we start talking about how crazy these poker games have been at my brother's house over the years. And he's like, this new place, man, we got to, try and raise up the intensity so it matches what we had at the old house. So we start telling a story about a poker hand that I played with my good friend Jason. This was like 1.5 years, 2 years ago at Dan's house. His old place. And I'm going to bring up the hand on this poker calculator. And I understand not all of you will know exactly what you're looking at here. But for anyone who's savvy with cards, this should interest you because I tell you guys, this is the kind of stuff that happens to me where I'm like, okay, I'm not meant to gamble. And this is another reason I don't bet on sports, because honestly, every time I put a lot of money on sports, this same thing happens where a team comes back. Like the first baseball game I ever put money on, I think it was the Reds. They hit a walk-off grand slam to win the game. And I'm like, okay, maybe this isn't my thing. So in this hand against Jason, he's sitting on my left. And I had a pair of aces in this hand. And I'm a fairly aggressive player. I raise a lot. So, this is a really good hand for me to have. So Jason calls. I forget if there were any other players in the pot. But this was the flop. A 9-6-4. We're playing Texas Hold'em, of course. 2 hold cards. 5 on the board. And at this point, I'm really liking my hand. And I do what's called a continuation bet on the flop with my overpair. And Jason over here calls. And we go to the turn. And it's another 6. And he kind of mutters under his breath. He says, ooh, 6, another 6, sixes, or something like that. And I'm like, that was a weird thing to say. Just out of the ordinary for him. So I don't get too crazy. I just bet again with my 2 pair. And he goes ahead and calls me. And I'm like, okay. I mean, the odds of him having a 6, calling me with a 6, and then calling me with just a pair of 6s, it seems pretty low. There were no draws on the board, so again, I'm still liking my hand. So then the river comes in ace. And I'm thinking, oh, yeah, baby. Like, whatever he had, I'm good. I mean, obviously, he doesn't have 2 6s. He did make that little comment that was weird, but what are the odds, right? And what's cool about poker is that we can ask the question, what are the odds? And you can actually see what the odds are. So here, the odds that I'm going to win this hand with an aces full of 6s is 99.9%. There's literally only one combination of cards that he could have to defeat me. So with 52 cards in the deck and 7 cards subtracted based on what I can see, we have 45 cards, right? Now, out of those 45 cards remaining, there's a 2 in 45 chance that he has a 6. So a 0.0444% chance, okay? So we're going to add the memory there. So there's essentially a 4.44% chance that he has 1 6, or that his first card is a 6. Well, then with 44 cards left after that, only one of them can be a 6. 1 divided by 44, and then we have a 2.2%. So you multiply this by the 4.4% chance, and you're left with literally a 0.1% chance exactly. So with even though it was a 1 in 1,000 chance, he raises me, and I'm like, no way. He goes all in, I call, he turns over 2 sixes, giving him 4 of a kind, defeating my aces full. And I put my cards down, and I just stared at the cards for a good minute. And I was like, what? Did I really just lose a hand like that? And, I have played probably definitely tens of thousands, if not hundreds of thousands of hands of online poker when I was younger. And I can't remember losing with aces full. I don't think I ever lost with aces full to 4 of a kind. On some sites, that might even be a bad beat, jackpot. So we told the story about this poker hand, which again happened about a year and a half ago. Now, right around this time, people at the table start talking about COVID and how they've been on vacations recently, but a couple of them, they feel safe when everyone's wearing a mask, and they're talking smack about people who aren't wearing masks. And mind you, these are people I tried really hard to wake up a couple years ago. I've kind of dropped hints since then. They're not having it. A couple people at the table are good friends of mine. Jason, for instance, he understands what I'm about. My brothers know a little bit more, but, there's some people who just aren't on board with it, and I've had to accept that, and that's fine, because, you got to find a balance in your life, and these are still people who care about me. We all love each other. We'll all, be there for one another, because we grew up and became good friends, and that's what life is all about. But now Satan has kind of inserted this divisive thing between us, and we as purveyors of knowledge have to be the balancing act, emotionally, I think, or at least that's how I see it, to try and not fly off the handle and appear like we're losing it, So as people are talking about this, my sister-in-law got her first shot. A couple other people are talking about when they got their shot scheduled next week. And I'm sitting there like, oh my God, all these people are taking the vaccine. What the hell? And I start, it's the internal stress levels are starting to build. And I'm like, oh, am I going to make a scene here? Is this really going to happen in the middle of the day? We're all having fun. Am I going to just, no. So I just kind of put my head down and, just kind of scratched my face a little bit and went on with the game. And I'm just thinking in my head like, oh, you guys, if you understood the odds of all this 666 stuff happening, this would be, you guys would not even be thinking about this. So all this stuff is happening, and my emotions are, like I said, they're firing off. Well, then 1 or 2 hands later, I'm going to bring up my screen again. I get into another poker hand. And no, you're not looking at the same hand. This was the one against my friend from a year or two ago. And this is the hand that came up just a couple hands later. Mind you, after we told the story about the first one. So this time, my brother raises to my right from early position. And I re-raise him 1 spot to his left with 2 red aces. So with the rest of the table to act, I think we get maybe 1 or 2 other callers. And here comes the flop, 665. Now my brother, even though I re-raised him before the flop, he still leads out with a bet here. And I'm thinking that's really strange because my brother to my right is a really good poker player. And he's really the only one, well, my other brother's getting pretty good too, but he's really the only one who I know would, try and play against me. So he leads out in bets, and I'm thinking that's strange. If he has a 6, he'd probably bet into me because I re-raised him. He knows that I'm going to try and re-raise probably with that overpair. His bet is fairly small to the pot, so I go ahead and call, and then these other players fold. And I didn't raise him here, even with an overpair. I just called, especially with the players behind me. So the next card comes out, and it's an absolute brick. It's a deuce. Now, my brother leads out into me again, and he's talking. He's saying these weird things. He's like, oh, I'm worried about Derek behind me here. And he makes the same bet on the turn, and my alarm bells are firing off. I'm like, oh, my gosh, he does have a 6. I can't believe it. So he bets, and again, I don't raise. I just call, and it was right. I said, I'm probably behind. There's a good chance I'm behind here. So then the river comes, and it's an ace of diamonds. And I'm like, oh, baby, here we are. Here we go. I got my aces full of 6s. No matter pretty much what he had, I'm going to win this hand. So my brother bets out, this time 3 times what he bet on the last 2 rounds. And I'm licking my chops. I'm like, oh, what am I going to do with my aces full? So I'm kind of slow playing it a little bit because, again, I have a 99.9% chance to win. The odds of my brother having 2 6s in his hand, the only hand that can beat me, is, again, 1 in 1,000. Okay? So I'm like, okay, all right. So I slowly raised him. And I think it was enough to either go put them all in or whatever. Or maybe he re-raised all in. I was like, great, we call. He turns over his cards, and what does he have? He's got 2 6s. And I'm like, and I actually like kind of lost my mind a little bit because we were just talking about this hand. They're talking about the vaccines. I'm thinking about the number 666 and 111. Remember? Vaccination, 111, 666, mandatory, 111, 666. And then this hand happens again where I lose to 4 6s with my aces. Aces like the 1, vaccines like the 666. And I was like, what? I was looking down at the hand. I said, no fucking way. I was like, no fucking way. And I ran out of the place. Like, literally, I ran out because I was so shocked. I didn't care that I lost the hand. Whatever. Sometimes you lose in poker. That's fine. My brother didn't do anything wrong. He played the hand perfectly. Even though my alarm bells were going off, he should have stayed silent, you know, and just made his bets. He would have gotten my money quicker that way. But I was so blown away by what I saw. I was like, the cosmic odds of that. I mean, literally, the odds are 1 in 1 million. If you take 2 times where the odds are 1 in 1,000, that's 1 in 1 million. But that's assuming that you're even in that position twice to begin with, right? So now, you know, we're looking at things from a actual mathematical statistical view with poker, whereas Gematria, it's virtually impossible to take an actual statistical analysis because you have so many different factors, several different ciphers. You're measuring dates and looking at that as well. Astrology comes into play. But now I have a situation where I'm like, boom, 1 in a million. And it happened the first time that it could have. And not only was it 1 in a million, but the numbers involved were 111 and 666. Right after the whole vaccine thing with my emotions firing. So this is what I'm trying to get at when I say our emotions are tied to the manifestation of reality. And that manifestation occurs by a numeric code by which we can see. It's incredible. It's a major secret of reality that's being hidden from us, but it's true. It's real. And people like me who have discovered this or discovered the discovery, so to speak. I don't take credit for that. That'd be silly. But, you know, we're made to look crazy in so many ways. But when you look at things through this lens, it's the only way these things make sense, is that we are the ones manifesting our reality. Now, this doesn't mean go out and gamble and just think about winning and gambling. That's not what I'm talking about. Clearly, there's something else going on with cards here. And it's funny because when you go back hundreds of years, people would roll dice and play cards, and they would have no, or it was said that they had no concept in their mind to understand statistics and mathematics. So everything in their mind was left to these chance gods. Well, what are the odds maybe that they were actually onto something and that it's not just random mathematical probability that's leading us through our lives in this fashion? And, you know, just a special shout out to Dan Barrett, who posts about this kind of stuff all the time. You know, look at his last post from Thursday. You know, Kermit the Frog post right after he makes his last blog post about Kermit the Frog, running into it on Facebook. This is the kind of stuff that happens all the time, and I'm glad that he's been doing this for years before I have, and his blog was the only one that ever really made me think about things in this light. And I thought it was kind of ridiculous at first, but, you know, I thought Zach Hubbard's research was kind of ridiculous at first too. And then I built the calculator and realized, oh, whoa, like not only are they right, but they're only on the surface. And, you know, we've done a lot to expand the work since then, but man, if this thing yesterday didn't spook me out, I mean, it was literally like I was shaking after this happened because it felt like something interdimensional had happened. I don't know how to describe it, but It's wild, man. So, yeah, I guess just glancing back through the chat here, um, I know a lot of you are exhibiting some kind of sympathy with my position with, family and friends. And look, I'm at peace with this. I have to be. Um, there's been a lot of people who said that there's a spiritual element to everything that's playing out. And that is extremely true. And how else do you how else do you explain it when something that is so clear to you and so obvious and so confirming of what you've kind of already sensed your whole life means absolutely nothing to another human being with the same, mostly the same abilities as you? It's too bizarre. And again, it's not like I didn't try. I tried to wake people up. I gave them the best riddles I could. I showed them how NASA had done things by the numbers and the moon landing was fake and these rover landings are fake. And they're just like, oh, that's crazy. You don't believe in science? And I'm like, well, I believe in real science, but this establishment science, no, that's insane. Someone pointed out something interesting in Gematria. The future is now saying is 2021 in Gematria. Well, I do see that it's 666. That's pretty interesting. You got your prime numbers. What cipher might that be 666 in? Or what did you say, 2021? Now, see, this is why I got to be careful with the chat, because you guys use ciphers that aren't even on my website. So I don't really find that stuff too interesting. So Dr. Savage, I can't tell if you were critiquing my play on those poker hands or if yeah, I mean, when I play poker, it's all about who I'm playing, because the games that I'm talking about are generally a little bit softer than ones you would normally play in. And I'm using my table image, and it's pretty complicated. Like, it's difficult for anybody to look at my plays and call it bad based on what the table was. Consider that I got all my money in on both of those hands both times, which was the whole point. Because we don't play with a whole lot of chips off the table. Or, I should say our chip stack behind isn't that much larger than the normal big pot. So, yeah, I got all my money in when I was 1 in 1,000 to win, and neither time it worked out. One of those hands I dealt. Someone asked I'd ask who dealt. Yeah, we were all dealing our own hands. So the first one against my friend Jason, I remember dealing that hand, I think, or he. Yeah, but definitely no one messing with the cards. There's like, there's I don't think there's any trickery. There's no magicians in our group. I'll say that much. If you want to do a podcast with me, maybe contact me on Discord. If you go to gematrinator.com and click miscellaneous on the top, you'll see the Discord link. That's been the best way to get in touch with me lately. My email's backed up, and I can't even always access it because of my servers all messed up. Someone says if you're pool or poker smart, then you're a genius. I don't know. Pool is an interesting game. Like, I think people who are really good at pool maybe have a different type of genius than someone who plays poker, because there's something to be said for having a geometry brain, like visually, that I don't necessarily have. I've talked about how I can never like paint a picture. You ask me to draw someone's face, you'll get like something that looks like it was drawn by a 4-year-old. I have no visual artistic ability. But poker's, it's a people game, and it's experience too. I think there's more experience is important than just genius, but I'm no sensational poker player. I'm pretty good. Yeah, I think quad eights was the I think that was the minimum bad beat jackpot at my casino. So aces full probably wouldn't win. Maybe at a small casino with like really small limit buy-ins or something, but Yeah, it's usually like four tens or a low straight flush will lose it. But yeah, Mark, I think you're right, man. Anyone with real faith knows life isn't random at all. I think the more you explore, the more you realize how little may actually be random. And, depends on how you perceive that. It's like you can look at it as everything's already predetermined and there's no use in doing anything, or you can say, hey, I'm meant to experience these things. Maybe, oh, that's a nice username there. People talking smack about Zach in the chat. No need for that, really. I mean, you're not wrong, but Zach's you guys got to realize like Zach is part of this whole awakening injection. Whatever force you believe in that's helping us along, that's helping us evolve and wake up, he seems to be a part of that to some extent. And it's weird. I wonder like how long it would have taken us to figure this out if he wasn't teaching it on YouTube. Would we have? I feel like probably, just based on how deeply I was looking for stuff, but I don't know. I mean, without someone telling me it was relevant, how far would I have ever gotten in Gematria, right? It's pretty interesting. But yeah, I mean, one thing I guess I just want to see Gematria spread by more people. And if there's any criticism of Zach, it's that the way he talks about it and presents it causes fewer people to want to help him spread it. So, for instance, he wasn't happy with my performance or whatever you want to call it on Jason Goodman's show. And honestly, I wish I had more time to prepare for it. I didn't even know we were going live until like an hour before. That being said, I still got good feedback from it. But like, that was kind of a signal to him like, hey, if this was presented in a more positive manner and you weren't so destructive of all the other personalities in the truth community, then maybe this could make it on other places. And I don't know. Yeah, but I agree. It's like he's very quick to take issue with people, and I can understand why to an extent because, hey, I mean, as someone who puts himself out there, like I've made Gematria pretty much the primary message that I'm bringing to the world, and when someone critiques that or undermines it, I get pretty defensive, right? I mean, you saw at the end of my last live stream, I called someone a name for saying something stupid in the chat. So, I mean, I get it to an extent. I think we're both cut from the same cloth a little bit. So when it comes to having a general disdain for the world and the people who believe what's in it, I get that, man. And I wish you guys could see, well, I don't wish you could see it, but you may have a different perception on me if you saw me in my daily life, just like waking up in the morning just angry, randomly swearing, pretending I'm yelling at somebody just because of a dream I had or some energy that I can't shake. Like, it sucks. I feel crazy sometimes in that light, but it's the world around me that's made me this way, So it's this cycle of trying to come to peace with what's going on around you. And like I said, I've tried to wake people up, and if they can't, then it's tough. And oh yeah, I'm actually missed a little block of chat there. Oh yes, Santos Bonacci. I wanted to mention that guy's name. Yeah, he's really interesting as far as the astrological side of things, and it would be curious to see someone like his take on Gematria and how it relates to astrology. I think it's difficult when someone who's so well versed in a particular study has been doing it for so long, and then you introduce something new, they're not always going to be so receptive to it. So maybe he wouldn't enjoy it at all. But I like to think that we could take some of his lessons and apply it to Gematria and help uncover the riddles. Nice. Oh, yeah, yeah, 666. So, okay, the future is now 666. Yeah, that was pretty wild, right? My first name is spelled the easiest way to spell Derek, Derek. Um, remember, it matches numbers in Gematria, so if you're ever trying to figure out the spelling, type in numbers and then type in Derek, and that'll tell you if it's right. So, all right, guys. So I'm going to cut the video here. It's been going on a little longer than I wanted to, but just wanted to touch base with the chat like I rarely do. And, I thought it'd be interesting to look at something that is mathematically provable to be highly unlikely occurring in my life. Just to explain that it's, you just got to, every once in a while, you got to kind of step back and always question yourself. That to me is a quality that is very important to have, and it's necessary to get to the bottom of truth with anything. Is whatever you think you believe, unless you know it for absolutely certain, have the ability to take a step back and reconsider. Well, hello, Switzerland. Good to see the entire world stepping in. Yeah, I don't like it when people spell my name wrong either. I don't really generally call them out on it because I know they don't see my name all over the place. But yeah, to me, it's always a form of respect. And unfortunately for me, Derek is one of those names where there may be more spellings of my name than any other name I can think of. Like, I once saw a Derek named Darryq. And I said, okay, we're losing it here, guys. But yeah, at work, they'd print up lists of phone numbers, and my name would be spelled Derrick, and I'd be like, hey, come on, all you got to do is look at look at the list of names to spell my name correctly, in your little book. Why can't you take 3 seconds to have the respect to spell my name correctly? I always had problems with that too, and of course, what do you know? It turns out the numbers of my name are important, so I like to always, point that out. Well, as far as these other ciphers, I don't exactly encourage too much exploration into the other ciphers because there's so many basic, still undiscovered riddles in the ordinal methods that have not yet been touched on. And when there's a riddle tomorrow and the next day, you're going to be able to use the ordinal ciphers there as well. Whereas, you guys might throw something from reverse satanic in one day, but then you won't mention reverse satanic again for another 7 or 8 decodes. Well, how do we know reverse satanic has any significance if you're not using it in every decode? So, I stress logic, okay, when it comes to extra ciphers. And yeah, you're going to find little sprinkles and little nuggets of excellence occasionally in these other ciphers. But it's similar to astrology, where a lot of the times it's just kind of hard to find anything. And then occasionally you'll see something, boom, it just lines up really nicely. So that's my John Madden impression. Terrible one. All right, guys, cutting it there. Thanks again for popping in and joining me on this quest through the deck of playing cards. All right. Peace, love, God bless, and talk to you next time.